Hi, everybody. Lex Gray here. Welcome back to the Lex Gray Show. This is episode 4. Now, today's topic, as brief it may be, is about attack rolls versus straight damage. And here's what I mean. There are many ways to calculate damage. There are many ways to do combat. I have a few examples here on the table that I will go through, explaining how I perceive combat in basically two main ways, while one method has kind of two categories within it. Let me explain. So, with Ironsworn and Fate in general, we have narrative combat. Narrative combat's very abstract. Basically, with Iron Sword, you have all the moves, and you're not really tracking weapons per se, you're not really tracking specific damage, but with the moves in Iron Sword, it can reduce your health. So there is some sense of damage, but it can be very deadly, but also very cinematic. There are also options within Iron Sword to speed it up. Basically, it's a battle sequence. It's all blur. You basically roll some dice to see what exactly happened with your attributes in mind. Now, with Fate, you do have attack defend as one of the two out of the four primary moves, which I have on this card here that I keep close by at all times. You have attack defend, and with those, you will reduce, if you get hit, you will reduce your stress, or you'll take stress. Same thing goes for the enemy you're attacking. So there again, it's inherent beyond narrative, but you are technically attacking while doing straight damage if you did take the hit. So that is a blend of an attack roll, and if it's successful, you deal damage. Next is Karen. Karen is straight damage. There are no attack rolls. So with the narrative approach out of sight, let's focus on Karen for a second. Karen basically, you roll your damage die. If you encounter a monster, then it really does challenge your player skills compared to your character skills. So that's why, as I've played Karen many, many times on my channel, it's best to not just attack. If you want to, you can certainly deal some damage, but you're also at risk of taking some damage, even if you have armor up to 3, which I believe is the maximum. So this is the other side of the coin that is just straight damage. There are no attack rolls. You're not rolling at AC. You're not rolling within your player attribute. It is a straight damage roll outside of your 3 attributes that are strength, dexterity, and willpower. You can house roll it, which I've done sometimes, to roll at strength or dexterity, depending on what type of attack you're doing, etc. But with its core rules, you just roll straight damage. If you get hit, you take damage, but it reduces your attributes. So that's one unique thing of Cairn, is that when you take damage beyond your hit protection, you start reducing your strength. Depending on the damage you take, you can also reduce dexterity and willpower. Obviously, you suffer conditions, and there's more to it, but we're not here to review or teach about Cairn, but that's essentially the unique trait of Cairn. So that, again, is the other type of method of damage, of combat, is just straight attack. This third one here is a more complicated version of attack rolls. This is your conventional approach to D&D. I like to use Old School Essentials as the example because this covers your ascending and descending AC. I'm not an expert, but basically descending descending AC is more commonly found in OSR games in the original D&D days back in the 70s and 80s, where there is the old THAC0 or THAC0 method of the attack roll to attack. Basically, the number you want to hit, if you succeed, you land damage. So there's the 2 steps. You roll to attack. If you hit that number, you deal damage. Moving on to the next round. That's how it works. With THAC0, it's another number. It's basically you have to hit it. You consider your attack bonus, which would be either strength or dexterity modifiers. Might consider the level bonus depending on if you're doing some house rules, but essentially, as you level up, your THAC0 decreases because that number becomes easier to hit with a d20. And you also include the enemy's AC to add, and if you succeed in hitting or exceeding that number, THAC0, you deal damage. I've become kind of a personal fan. Become a favorite of mine when it comes to attack rolls. I actually have the Thaco method has grown on me. Again, not an expert, but what I've done personally is there's BX, there's the Beck Me line, BX the originals, and then Beck Me to follow, basic, expert, companion, masters, immortals. It uses the target number Thaco starting at 19 when you're level 1 character. If you are normal human, if you're doing a level 0 character, you might bump it up to 20. With AD&D, it's 20 is the number that you start at. So it becomes a little harder to hit, just one level difference. So what I've done to modify, to make the math just ever so slightly easier for the player, is that 20 is the number you always have to hit. And with Thaco, the chart that's in here and in BX and all the other books, the difference between your original core Thaco and the number 20 is the attack bonus you apply. So when your character levels up, the Thaco becomes lower, gets smaller, decreases in value. Your attack bonus increases, so you have a better chance as your character levels up to hit 20. So it's a target 20 system. I've talked about this numerous times, but it may not be relevant here, but I just want to put that in there. So for people who are curious about slight alternatives, possible house rules that have been done by other players to make Thaco slightly easier. Again, at its core, it is simple, but it can be kind of unusual to new players who are used to the ascending method in D&D 5e, for example, or most Roll20 games, 20D game, D20 game, sorry. Then you're basically trying to hit the enemy's AC or above to hit. There you go. If you roll at or above, so you succeed. So again, old school essentials. I love the fact that it has that. It has the method in the back here. You have your Thaco, and it also has the equivalent of the ascending method for AC. So there's the attack roll to hit AC. And that is the 3 under the umbrella of 2 that I have experience with. Again, you have the narrative approach, which can be a blend of either attack roll combined with the damage dealt if you land an attack, but also depends on the narrative. If you're doing straight damage, if the stakes are high, you might not even use an attack roll mechanic. You might just do straight damage, which that's where Karen comes in. That one's kind of in the middle here of both situations. Karen is straight damage. Whatever damage die you have, depending on the weapon you have equipped, that is what damage you deal. And then you have Old School Essentials, which is a great combination of ascending modern AC compared to descending Thaco AC. So that is going to be it. Please let me know your opinions below of any of the possible combat methods out there. This does not summarize or compress all known methods of combat or calculating damage or attack rolls. This is just a few of many in a sea of RPGs. But these are the 3 that I'm most commonly familiar with. I'm sure I have games on my shelf that I've not played yet that have slightly different variations of combat. For example, I want to do a little foreshadowing here for my subscribers. Be sure to subscribe, like, share, and comment, and ring that bell to keep notified. I forgot to mention that in the earlier part of the video. But I've been kind of looking into an older game, the second officially released RPG of all time, which was released after OD&D by Gary Gygax, and that is Tunnels and Trolls. Just starting to read up on it. I have the 5th edition PDF. I have a Japanese released quick mini rules that has a one-shot solo adventure that has kind of like a mini rules compressed, which I am a big fan of. I also have the original Tunnels and Trolls PDF, and all of this is fairly cheap to find on Drive-Thru RPG. I'm waiting for a physical copy of that Japanese mini rules. It's in English, but it apparently is from Japan back in the day, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm waiting for those mini rules to make a character, which will be one of my future episodes here on the Lex Gray Show. I'm fascinated by the Tunnels and Trolls mechanics comparative to the original D&D because of its combat sequence. It's very intriguing. Now, if you want to keep listening to me blabber on about Tunnels and Trolls, stick around. If you are satisfied with what you heard, that's basically the context of the video. You can end it here. Thank you for watching. But with Tunnels and Trolls, again, just some foreshadowing. I may do a video talking about the game in slightly greater detail, but I'm in no way an expert. I've just discovered the game recently. It just kind of seems like it hid away from me for ever since I got into the hobby. Tunnels and Trolls has a group role, if you will, when it comes to combat. There is some variations and optional rules, but basically in those mini rules, is what I've seen and read. Essentially, both sides roll all of their dice. They roll all of their attack dice, which would be the weapon, and two that I believe you rolled a two in the equivalent attribute, or might be mistaken there, but basically you roll a pool of d6s, which includes adds, which is a fixed number that is based on your attributes. So I think that's where the attributes come in. You don't roll dice based on the attributes. You take the number that modifies it to be a bonus. If strength, dexterity, luck, and I think there's one more in there, gives you, if you're above 12, for every number above 12, it's a bonus. Every one or so numbers, I believe it's a bonus. That gives you a plus, a net gain. If you're below 9, you have a negative on that. But essentially, you roll a group of d6s. Every player rolls a group of d6s all at once. You don't have individual turns. There's not like, uh, player 1 goes first, does damage to the monster. Player 2 goes first, misses. Player 3 shoots from a distance, misses, etc. So on and so forth. The monsters go next. They have their turns. It doesn't work like that. It is a group roll. The entire player character group party rolls all their equivalent d6s. They calculate the total, including the adds, combat adds. And then the opponents roll their group the d6s. It's all d6s. And much like the original D&D. The game master rolls the d6s for the monsters or for the enemies all at once. And the entire count for both sides you compare. Whichever number total exceeds deals damage to the losing side. That damage gets distributed amongst the team. So evenly, you can distribute it evenly, or you can figure out, well, which player was more up front, which player was more in the back, like wizards, for example. Rangers would be in the back. Anyone firing from a distance, they would take least likely chance to take damage. So similar to Iron Sword and Fate, combat can be abstract, which is growing on me these days. I really enjoy the traditional method of combat, but I have a love-or-hate relationship with D20. That I have been really into the abstract of Iron Sword in combat, where it's summed up kind of a step-by-step process with the narrative with those moves. But with the Tunnel and Trolls method, the fact you're just doing one cumulative roll side by side and figuring out who has the higher roll deals damage. Now, again, the varying versions of Tunnels and Trolls, there are like 5+ editions, I think, out since they came out. There's deluxe Tunnels and Trolls. So basically there's been some changes to the attributes, like they introduced wizardry, I think. Wizard is one of the attributes compared to prior. Luck is a very interesting attribute. So the game has slightly changed, but at its core, it has been mostly the same. So that combat, that group role has been fairly consistent. But with the newer, more advanced rules, I quote that because the game is supposedly, again, I'm still looking into the book or the rules. The game's supposedly much lighter in the rules, more abstract combat. With the ads included, you can consider steps. Like in D&D, you have your missile attacks first, magic or missile ranged. You can do melee, etc. There's those 3 or 4 more types of steps to take in combat. Same thing goes for Tunnels and Trolls. Magic first, missile next, and then melee, and then survivors. That's how you do it. So the ranged wizards included, if applicable, would shoot first to deal damage to the other side, vice versa. The range would deal damage to the other side. People distribute the damage, whoever exceeds, and then the melee the applicable melee characters take flight, or they attack. Just really rolling the d6s. So there is that type of combat sequence in RPGs. So I'm currently most intrigued by Tunnels and Trolls just because it is still a OSR game, it is a classic OSR game, but it has an abstract style of combat. So it is very intriguing. And for anybody who has played Tunnels and Trolls, who had the fortune, who were lucky enough to grow up in the 80s playing either Tunnels and Trolls or any OSR, original D&D, etc., feel free to comment below any favorite memory of yours with those games and your thoughts on kind of the abstract combat. Now, there are people out there, rightfully so, players who prefer the very rigorous combat rules, like, for example, Rollmaster or GURPS, which has advanced combat, or Palladium, which has to me, indistinguishable, completely bizarre combat, or that just might be me. But still, if you prefer a very number crunchy step-by-step process for combat that could take up a whole session with a party of members against like 10 goblins or something, more power to you. That, again, that's something I have never really officially been part of, but would love to experience firsthand. Not online, but like actually in person, because again, the back and forth conversation between the players and the game master, depending, like, hit locations really got complicates things, which is also in GURPS. Rollmaster's known for that. Harm Master, I believe, has that trait. But essentially, hit locations can really complicate things. Like, you're basically hitting a certain part of the body. If it's armor, if it's protected, as you reduce the attack, the character then has a penalty for that use of that arm appendage moving forward. Again, it can go from the very, very simple Tunnels and Trolls abstract or Iron Sword to the very crunchy Rollmaster hit locations, tables, and charts for practically every single breath and motion. So there's a very wide range of possibilities. And there's games right in the middle, like D&D 5e or Old School Essentials. You have it kind of teetering on either side, complicated or simple. So it's entirely preference. And for me, I don't know yet. Like, I still, I have never really experienced Rollmaster or a complicated game to really say, oh, I want to stay away from that, or I love it. But for currently what I've been exposed to so far, undecided. I lean to the narrative recently. I'm always, my opinion's always ever so changing, because if I think about a different game, like, oh, I want to try that game now, and I'm obsessed with it. So in terms of obsession, I'm currently in that Tunnels and Trolls rabbit hole. I'm trying to learn a lot about the game. I want to get a physical copy of the actual Tunnels and Trolls game, because even if I have I got an e-reader here, which has my Tunnels and Trolls PDFs, I still prefer to have the actual book. I don't know. There's just something about having the physical book that makes it worth the while. So that is it. Hope you enjoyed as always. And like I said before, please subscribe, comment, share, ring that bell, etc. I appreciate everyone's viewership and all subscribers alike. If you have not, please do. And as always, I will see you next time. And I'm excited to, once we get that Tunnels and Trolls mini rules, I will do a character creation process first before recording, just so I feel comfortable with it. And then I will do a episode of actually creating the character. So people who are new to Tunnels and Trolls like myself kind of have that relative experience and can see how it goes for me. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.